much credit can we give to Gervonta Tank Davis for beating a guy like Vasily Lomachenko at 36, at how old he is? You know, it's kind of difficult for me, just because I always say in the sport of boxing, like, either fighter, no matter if it's the younger guy or the older guy, is going to be worse off. It's either he's too young or the other guy's too old. That's just how it's always going to be. Rarely are you going to get a fight where both fighters are really in their primes. You take big fights like Floyd Mayweather and Canelo Alvarez. They never said that was a legitimate win for Floyd. They never gave him his just due. They always gave Canelo that excuse of being a little bit too green, not having the experience. But, you know, during that time, Canelo already had a lot of fights. So it's just, you know, you can't please everybody. There are always going to be those people that aren't going to give you the credit that you may deserve for a win. So for me, I just think that Vasily Lomachenko, yeah, Tank probably should have fought him 3 or 4 years ago, but realistically, Tank isn't the same fighter that he is now. So maybe he would have been considered to be inexperienced in comparison to Vasily Lomachenko. But I still think if they fight now, Loma's still the more experienced fighter. So it's just like, it doesn't really matter. I think that as long as Tank actually does it in the ring, then it shouldn't be a problem. I think that it's better than him fighting some Joe Schmo or that we don't care about. He should just go in there and fight Vasily Lomachenko, because that's the fight that I think every real boxing fan has been wanting to see Lomachenko and Tank for some time now. And maybe it's a little, you know, past its prime for sure, but I'd still rather see it than Tank fight some random at 35 and we don't really care about him. So, and a lot of people aren't understanding the fact that pros are pros. I want to say that as well, that even though guys don't have a big name, take Teofimo Lopez, for example. He fought Steve Claggett. Steve Claggett didn't have a big name, but he showed that he was able to compete. You know, he didn't look like someone that didn't belong in the ring with Teofimo Lopez. He was pressing the action, swarming Teo, giving him a hard time, never allowing him to get his feet set. Teo obviously won the fight by unanimous decision, but had to work for it. So you can't sleep on any professional fighter. That's the truth. Just because guys don't have a big name doesn't mean that they can't give your favorite fighter a difficult time in the ring. Professionals are pros for a reason. I think people are getting it twisted that just because guys like Jake Paul and his brother Logan, all these MMA fighters are coming into boxing and putting on, you know, big events, that it's easy to become a professional. And maybe it is, but when it comes to real boxers, when it comes to the elite of the elite, they're not fighting, you know, trash cans and tomato cans like you guys are saying. You guys may not know them, but realistically, these guys aren't trash cans. You know, I've been to a lot of boxing gyms, and anyone who is a trainer or a coach or has been around the sport or covered the sport of boxing knows that if you go to a gym or if you just go to any boxing event, you're going to meet people and they're going to say, oh, this was the guy that was supposed to fight Teofimo Lopez if George Kambosos couldn't make it, like replacement fighters, stuff like that. So you really understand that a lot of these fighters, there are so many, you know, people in each division that you don't even know right now that could probably give us an exciting fight with a guy like Tank. But from the business and negotiation aspects of the sport of boxing, it doesn't make sense to put those guys with Tank. But they might give him a better fight than a lot of these other fighters have, but they don't have the name. And that's just how it is. That's how the sport of boxing is. You have to have a kind of a name. But sorry, I'm getting off track here. That's just something that I've been talking about ever since Teo's performance. Like, people don't understand that pros are pros, and it's not easy just because people call them taxi drivers, this and that, because, you know, after the fact, after guys like Teo win a decision, after guys like Tank, you know, win by stoppage, then they say, oh, it was a tomato can, this and that. But pros are pros. That's just how I feel about it. I think that any professional is there for a reason, and that they should all be taken seriously, because you never know. We see upsets all the time in the sport of boxing. So, you know, back to Vasily Lomachenko and Tank, I think that Tank deserves all the credit in the world for taking the fight. If it goes down, we're hearing that negotiation should be going down. My sources are telling me, you know, November is the date. So I'm gonna, you know, trust that that's true. That's for a fact that they're in negotiations and planning for November for Vasily Lomachenko and Tank. So if that fight goes down, which I'm hoping it does, how much credit can we really give to Tank? Because obviously Lomachenko's not in his prime. He's still good, but maybe the timing, the speed isn't what it used to be. And at the same time, you know, Tank is at that point in his career where he's honestly coming off his best performance. So if you take that into account and then you look at Lomachenko's, you know, kind of where he stands now, he's definitely not in his prime. He's definitely on the decline, but still had a great performance against George Kambosos. But Kambosos isn't Tank. I think Tank is going to give a lot of problems to Lomachenko. I think that, you know, Loma's style is perfect for Tank. I think at some point Loma runs into something big, and that's, you know, probably what's going to cause the problems. If Lomachenko can take Tank's best punch, but I just think Lomachenko's a natural 30-pounder, and at 35, it's tough for him to compete with the best out there just because of the power, the physical strength. You know, Lomachenko's major losses were against guys that majority of them were much bigger than him. Tank doesn't have that. He doesn't have the physical size, but he has the power to make up for all of that, and I think that's why he beats a guy like Vasily Lomachenko. And I think, you know, we got to start giving credit when it's due. You know, would you guys rather see Tank fight someone you don't know? At least he's fighting Lomachenko. Yeah, it's not in his prime, but I think we should still be giving credit to him. And a lot of you guys are going to say Tank's been ducking him for years, but if you guys really think about it, if the fight went down years ago, maybe Tank is the inexperienced one who is not in his prime, and people are going to say it was too early. So you can't have, you know, the best of both worlds. You kind of have to have one fighter who's going to be on the decline, one fighter that's going to be at their peak, or at least arriving to that peak in their prime. And that's just the way the sport of boxing is. That's kind of how the passing of the torch works. You look at guys like Manny Pacquiao, Oscar De La Hoya, Julio Cesar Chavez. Like, you look at these great fighters, they all have the fights where they kind of pass the torch to the next generation. The only one who hasn't really had that is Floyd Mayweather. Floyd Mayweather never had to pass the torch because he ended his career on top. You know, he's the only one. You know, besides him, Oscar De La Hoya, Manny Pacquiao, all your favorite fighters have had that passing of the torch fight, but Floyd hasn't. You know, that's how it is, though. You know, there's typically, put Floyd Mayweather aside, he's an outlier, but most of the time you have a guy who is out of his prime, who's a legend, and then you have the new guy that is entering his prime or is in his prime, and they knock off that legend and kind of send them into retirement. I think that's what's going to happen with Tank and Lomachenko. It's going to be an entertaining fight. For sure. You know, Lomachenko's never really in a boring fight. He knows when to press the action, how to make the fans excited about a fight, but I just don't think he has enough for Tank to keep him off him. You know, as offensive as a fighter as he is, and I think he could catch Tank with some good shots. He definitely has a level of power. I just don't know if it's enough to keep Tank honest. I think Tank might continue to come forward, press the action. Maybe it's going to be a little bit more of a skills match, a chess match in that regard, where you see a lot of feints from both guys, because the upper body movement of a guy like Vasily Lomachenko versus, you know, those intense feints of Gervonta Tank Davis. How's Lomachenko going to react to those feints? That's what I always say. Can you take the power, and how do you react to the feints? Because most fighters, once they feel Tank's power, you know, as soon as he starts to feint after that, the fighters become very reactive to his feints. And if Lomachenko's the same like other opponents that Tank has had, and he's very reactive when Tank is faking and feinting, then he has a problem on his hands, because that means that, you know, he feels the power, and that Tank is probably going to recognize that and then set a trap for him. And, you know, not to say that Vasily Lomachenko couldn't give Tank a great fight and maybe even beat Lomachenko. Maybe I might have even picked Lomachenko years back, but it's a different fight now. The fight that we get now isn't the fight that we would have gotten, you know, 3-4 years ago. So the reality of the situation is that Tank just he's in that mode, and Lomachenko is on his way out. He's talked about retirement, said that prior to the George Kambosos fight that he really didn't want to fight. He took the Kambosos fight for his dad, and if you're even thinking about retirement, that tells me that you're not going to be able to compete with the best in your weight class, and that's Tank Davis. You know, you could even throw a guy like Shakur Stevenson in there with Lomachenko. I don't even know if Lomachenko beat Shakur. I think I'd favor Shakur in that fight, just because the hunger, I'm not sure, and motivation has to be there at this level, or else, in my opinion, you don't beat the best at that weight class. But, you know, Lomachenko is going to be a Hall of Famer. He's definitely great with all the angles, this and that, but it all comes down to, you know, what he's able to do in the ring. And if he's able to somehow pull off an upset, more credit to Lomachenko. You know, I think that really it definitely solidifies him as a legend, and he's already a Hall of Famer, but just to you know, really put that stamp on his resume to end it with a guy like Tank and maybe even pull off a win. That'd be incredible to me. But let me know in the comments, how much credit can we give a guy like Tank Davis for beating Lomachenko at this point in his career, 36 years of age? Let me know in the comments what you guys think. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.
That's going to do it for another NASFight Media video, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. It's been your boy, Matt Nabong, with another video. Hope you guys enjoyed it all. Thank you guys for the constant support. Salute to y'all always. It's been your boy.